Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 22nd Pinellas County Transportation Agencies, Pinellas Suncoast. I'm on so many transit agencies. Okay, PSTA's board meeting. Come on. You two, three know where we were till the wee hours, so a little.
Tell the public where we were until the wee hours last night.
All right, let me start over. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to PSTA's board meeting today. Thank you for taking your time and your energy so bright and early to join us. I'd like to call this meeting to order and ask, oh, he's not here, Commissioner Gerard to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So, Rachel, I see I have no green cards. We have no public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to us today before we start the official meeting agenda? No? Okay. Our first item, I'm sorry?
You have no green cards.
Thank you. Our first item is going to be an interesting presentation about our innovative Direct Connect program. Bonnie Epstein, PSTA's senior planner, will present it, and I believe that she's going to introduce to us a user of the program as well. Bonnie, could you please come forward? Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Long, and good morning, board members. My name is Bonnie Epstein. I'm a senior planner, like you said, at PSTA, and I'm the project manager of PSTA's innovative program, Direct Connect. Get a presentation. Okay. Yeah, okay. Perfect. So you all know Direct Connect is PSTA's first mile, last mile program, meaning it's a service that connects residents to and from PSTA bus routes using Uber, taxi, and wheelchair options. So you've seen Direct Connect make headlines and win multiple awards as the nation's first ever public-private partnership with Uber. You've seen Direct Connect expand from a 2-stop pilot to a full-scale program with 24 stops throughout Pinellas County. And you've seen ridership continue to grow a lot, with its most impressive increase of over 160% within the first 4 months of its most recent expansion in April of 2018. Today I'm proud to share with you another milestone of Direct Connect. The real mission of this program is to help people, and today I'm honored to introduce you to Robert Richardson, a user of the Direct Connect program. So Robert has been a PSTA regular for quite some time. You can see on the left here how Robert was able to access his job at the VFO group or Freedom Scientific using PSTA. So he's able to get dropped off right in front of work and use sidewalks and crosswalks to get to the other side of the street to get home safely. And you can see on the right, when Robert was notified that his employer would be relocating to US 19, he had some concerns. I think you can see here that crossing US 19 to get to the other side would be very difficult. Luckily for Robert, Direct Connect has given him a solution to get home safely. So Robert is able to take a Direct Connect ride to a nearby Direct Connect location, get dropped off right in front of a southbound PSTA bus stop on Route 34. So he's dropped off right there and able to get home safely. So Robert's story is a great example of how Direct Connect helps people make connections and get where they need to go safely. For Robert, Direct Connect has increased his mobility by providing him an on-demand trip to get home from work as opposed to needing to pre-schedule a trip on DART. So now I'd like to introduce you to Robert Richardson as well as Carly Kitzmiller. She's a mobility specialist at Lighthouse Pinellas, and she's been helping Robert to learn about and use Direct Connect and Kelly March, the office manager at Freedom Scientific, Robert's employer. Robert, would you like to come join me?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I wanted to thank you for the Direct Connect service, because it it really helps. I don't know if a sighted person could get across US 19, much less a blind person. So yeah, riding PSTA, the buses, I like to ride the buses rather than take DART, because it gives me a little bit more flexibility and more independence. I don't have to schedule a ride a day ahead of time, and I can just leave whenever I want or arrive whenever I want. So this has helped a lot, and I really appreciate PSTA's help in this matter.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, just don't go away. We're going to get our pictures taken with you.
Yes.
That's all right with you.
Yeah. Did you guys want to talk?
I'm off to your left. I can help you back over there.
Okay.
Oh, around.
And now we have our Transit Riders Advisory Committee Chair, Gloria Lepic-Corrigan, who's going to give us a report on her issues with her committee. Thank you,
Thank you.
Gloria. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Long, Mr. Miller, and esteemed board members. The TRAC met on August 14th of 2018, and first we'd like to thank board member Josh Schulman for attending. Thank you. Thank you for always taking the time to do that. At the suggestion of Commissioner Gerard, I'm sorry, I need to talk into the mic. There we go. Excuse me. At the suggestion of Commissioner Gerard, we began with an excellent presentation by Mike Twitty, the property manager for Pinellas County, about the proposed Florida Amendment 1, the increased homestead property tax exemption referendum for the November election. Mr. Twitty provided us an overview of the facts related to the potential impact to property owners should the referendum pass. This was very helpful for our members to understand the potential impact of the referendum, if approved, on both our individual property taxes, but also on the decline in potential revenue for PSTA, infrastructure, and other essential services. So it was very good for us. We had one action item on our agenda, which was to review and approve the staff recommendations for the October service changes presented by Bob Lasher, External Affairs Officer. And you'll hear more about these exciting changes from Mr. Lasher during your meeting here. TRAC unanimously approved the staff recommendations for these service changes. Then Cassandra Borchers, PSTA's Chief Development Officer, presented us with two information items related to the TRAC term limits and the recruitment for the vacancies. The annual TRAC recruitment application period will begin on August 28th and last through October 2nd. And at your places is a copy of the TRAC recruitment flyer, I think you will see. And we asked for your assistance to share this information with anyone that you feel would be a good application for TRAC. Our next TRAC meeting will be held on September 18th, and as always, we welcome you to attend. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And now I, Janet Long, a member of the Forward Pinellas Board and a representative of PSTA, I'm trying to be clear, Commissioner, right, would like to share with you some activities going on with Forward Pinellas. We did not meet in August, but there are some exciting things that are going on nevertheless. Tonight, Forward Pinellas will host a small US 19 business roundtable focused on businesses in Palm Harbor and Tarpon Springs. Thank you to Commissioner Eggers for reaching out to businesses in the area. Thank you, David. The Florida Department of Transportation, PSTA, in Pinellas County will also be at the roundtable to answer questions and listen to the discussions. You may have already heard that in partnership with Hillsborough and Pasco's MPOs, we launched a regional survey last week. It's Time Tampa Bay, and time is in solid caps. This interactive survey asks about transportation investments and how we should grow as a region. The recommendations that result from the survey will help us to create our first 3-county long-range transportation plan. Please take the survey and tell your friends and family. The survey is available at itstimetambabay.org. The Regional Transportation Leadership Workshop on MPO Coordination and Best Practices Study is on Monday, August 22nd at 10 a.m., and it's being held at the Collaborative Labs at St. Pete College. Project materials and information are available on the TBARTA website. The next Forward Pinellas meeting is on September 12th at 1 p.m. The Forward Pinellas Legislative Committee will also meet on September 12th at 11. And I know we have some other Forward Pinellas members here. Commissioner Justice, do you have anything to add?
Ma'am.
Commissioner Eggers?
No, just a quick question on the on itstimetambabay.org. What's going on in terms of getting that out to the public? What are we doing? Do you know?
I do not, but I bet you Mr. Blanton does. Could
there he
you
is.
step up and maybe give us a little quick answer to Commissioner Eggers' question? Thank you.
Good morning, Whit Blanton.
Good morning.
I feel like I've been on just about every radio show or TV show around with Beth Alden over in Hillsborough County to talk about It's Time Tampa Bay. So we've purchased some social media time. We've purchased some advertising time through the Tampa Bay Times. And we'll be going out to a lot of events around the region, the Tampa Bay Home Show, for instance, a lot of the other festivals that are happening. The survey is open until the end of September, so we have another 3 weeks or so to gather that input, and we're distributing it widely throughout all our networks.
Is there an information flyer on this that we can send out? Because there's some of us that have some.
Yeah, there is, so we can share that with
That'd be great.
all of you, and anything you can do to help promote that would be very helpful. Well, I think we've already gotten several thousand responses already.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Excellent. Commissioner Torringa, do you have anything to add to that report?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. And,
Commissioner,
yes,
as the
Oh,
chair for,
well,
as
I'm
the chair
so
for
sorry.
Pinellas, I'm sorry, just have to add, it's the 27th next, I think you put the 22nd in your report, so just for clarification of your record, it's the 27th.
no, it says Monday, August 27th.
Yeah, good, because I think I heard you say the 27th. Anyhow, thank you for allowing me to give you the update.
Thank you for the clarification very much. All right, and now I'd like to give you the report on TBARTA, and before I do, I would be very remiss if I didn't say a big heartfelt thank you to Brad Miller and Debbie Leos and Cassandra for their hard work and leadership in terms of providing financial assistance and some very much needed tightening up of the issues at TBARTA. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your report on Friday. The last TBARTA board meeting was held here at PSTA in the boardroom on August 3rd. And the board approved our own Alan Zimmett, thank you, Alan, from the Bryant, Miller, and Olive Law Firm to be TBARTA's new general counsel. We then got a very helpful presentation by Brad and PSTA's CFO, Debbie Leos, on TBARTA's current finances and the great progress they are making to improve management of TBARTA's federal and state grants. Brad also presented a forecast of a future improved TBARTA organization that will take on the regional transit improvements as the state legislature requires. At our TBARTA meeting this Friday, Debbie will present the actual FY 2019 T-BARTA budget from which we will work on our legislative agenda, both for PSTA and for T-BARTA, as soon as that meeting on Friday is over. Finally, we are moving forward with hiring a new T-BARTA executive director. And I'm very proud to say that we're following a similar process to the one Pinellas County recently used to select our new county executive. This coming Friday, the T-BARTA Selection Committee will shortlist 8 to 10 candidates to compile short video answers to questions. Then, based on their responses, the committee will identify 2 to 4 finalists to bring back to the full T-BARTA board on September 21st. We hope to have a new executive director as soon as possible, probably sometime in late October or November. And that is the conclusion of my report. Do any of you have any questions, concerns, thoughts? Anyone? No? Okay. Then we are on to consent, and if I could have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Gerard, seconded by, who was it, Dan? By Commissioner Tornga. Could you please open the voting card?
Read the resolution.
And Alan needs to read the resolution, yes.
Patient agreements with the State of Florida Department of Transportation for block grant program funds for operating assistance, urban corridor program funds for the continuation of Route 100X service, Route 300X service, Curlew Road Connector Route service, and the Route 100X extension service, service development program funds for the downtown St. Pete circulator service, and commuter assistance program funds for the downtown St. Petersburg autonomous shuttle operations demonstration project. Authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to execute joint participation agreements, including any supplemental agreements or amendments. Authorizing the Chief Executive Officer to furnish additional information as the Department of Transportation may require, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. And now, Rachel, would you please? Very good. Thank you so much. And that, you have Commissioner Fenger's vote, correct?
Yeah, there you go.
There you are. For our community. It will move the Tampa Bay's first rapid transit project into its final design stage. Abhikash, thank you so much. PSTA's relatively new project director, well, it seems like you've been here for quite a while already, will make the presentation. Abhishek Dayal, please go forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. And good morning to the board, PSTA board. As Madam Chair mentioned, my name is Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management Office. I've been here almost 4 months with PSTA, and I'm very excited to talk about our Central Avenue BRT project. And this item is for action to award the preliminary engineering and final design services contract for this very critical project. As you all know, the Central Avenue BRT is 11-mile bus rapid transit corridor with 17 stations, and it connects downtown St. Pete through city of South Pasadena and terminates in city of St. Pete Beach. To put it in regional context, this is a very critical project that can really trigger several other projects in the Tampa Bay region. So we believe this is an important catalyst for future implementation of other similar projects in the region. And this is also one of the projects that has really advanced through the Federal Transit Administration's long Small Starts process, Small Starts funding process. The total project cost is $41.36 million. Almost half of that funding comes from Federal Transit Administration through their Small Starts program, about $20.35 million. And the local match is contributed by FDOT, which is about a quarter of the funding. And then also contributions from the City of St. Petersburg, City of St. Pete Beach, and PSTAs through their own capital reserves program. So a couple of things to talk about on this BRT project. The goal of this corridor of this project is really to make sure our buses can run more efficiently and more reliably on this corridor. So what we're proposing is using what we call business access and transit lanes, or BAT lanes. These are essentially semi-dedicated lanes where buses can run either on curbside or on First Avenue, be on the left side, and those lanes can only be used for vehicles to make a right turn or a left turn to access the adjacent properties. So on First Avenue North and South, the BAT lanes will be on the left side. On First Avenue South, just east of 16th Street, the BAT lanes will transition to the curbside. On Pasadena Avenue, the BAT lanes will actually be on the curbside. On Gulf Boulevard in St. Pete Beach, there will be mixed traffic running. Other improvements that we're proposing as part of this project is use of transit signal priority and intelligent transportation systems, or ITS, improvements at select intersections. This allows for buses to really clear traffic signals more efficiently and stick to the overall project schedule. Another component that we'll be working on in this phase is accommodating these BAT lanes and the stations within existing right-of-way. As many of you might be familiar, First Avenue North and First Avenue South both have bike lanes, and they also have on-street parking. So our design team will be looking at how to accommodate these BAT lanes and other station features within existing right-of-way. And then speaking of stations, BRT tend to have unique station designs. So we'll be spending a fair amount of time on designing these stations to also accommodate up to a 60-foot articulated vehicle. So as I mentioned, the project is being proposed to be funded through Federal Transit Administration's Small Starts program. And to that end, FTA a couple of years ago had approved entry into the project development pipeline back in May of 2016. The project received medium-high rating, which is the second highest rating that a project can get, as recently as March of this year. Now, a lot of projects from around the country compete for this funding, and to really see which projects can get funding, FTA rates them on a scale of high to low, so we received a medium-high on that scale. Overall project schedule, we just completed planning, and so we are in the design phase. Assuming the board takes action today, we will move on to the next phase of this project. And that will continue through summer to fall of next year. And then in fall of next year is when we begin construction after we sign the grant agreement with FTA to get the funding. The intent of this project is to really have it opened by end of 2020 and early 2021. So PSTA issued a request for qualifications for design. And 3 firms submitted the qualifications or statement of qualifications, and those 3 firms are H.W. Lochner, Icon, and Kimley Horn. And we constituted a 5-member evaluation panel comprising of 3 PSTA staff, FDOT, and staff from City of St. Petersburg. And after the technical evaluation and interviews, H.W. Lochner was selected as the most qualified team amongst the 3 proposers. And we have some members of the H.W. Lochner team, including the project manager, Andrea Strotka, and Tom Stoner, who's the deputy project manager from the team. So upon board action, staff will begin negotiations with H.W. Lochner and issue them a notice to proceed to start phase 1 of a 3-phase design contract. This is subject to the overall contract limit of $1.7 million. So this design services contract is divided into 3 phases, and it's really based off of industry best practices recommended by Federal Transit Administration. And this makes it more efficient and makes us work towards the different project milestones to ultimately get to the federal grant, which we're hoping to get in October of next year. So what the consultant will do is really work on the bat lanes designs as part of the BRT on roadway restriping, as well as the station design, again, to accommodate that 60-foot articulated vehicle in the corridor. I mentioned traffic signal priority and other intelligent transportation systems. That's something that the consultant team will also spend some time on. They'll also be conducting geotechnical surveys to really understand what kind of utilities are present in the corridor so that it makes it easier for our construction team when they start to know what kind of issues they'll have to deal with during construction. We'll also look at project delivery methods. Right now, there are a lot of delivery methods that are out there in the industry, such as design bid, design build, bid build, or design build, or even construction manager at risk. And based on the risk and the design team will also recommend what's the most efficient way for the construction to begin and to be completed for this project. And all of that will help us further refine the capital cost estimate for this project. Community outreach is going to be an important component of this design phase, as well as during construction phase. Just yesterday, we had a really positive discussion with the City of South Pasadena at their commission meetings. We supported FDOT in their presentation on the Pasadena Avenue corridor, looking at some of the traffic impacts. So we had some really good feedback from the commission members. And so we're going to take all of that feedback into the design phase and work with them, as well as FDOT, to move this design phase forward. So the recommendation in front of you today is awarding the Central Avenue BRT preliminary engineering and final design services contract to H.W. Lochner, again subject to not to exceed a contract limit of $1.7 million. And just to, again, put things in context, I want to bring this map back to you again, that how it fits in the whole regional discussion about BRT and high-capacity transit corridors in the region, and how important this project is to us. This week, Brad and I and a couple other folks from PSTA visited FTA's regional offices, and we had really positive discussions with FTA, and they were very pleased with the progress that we've made on this project. So we continue to work with them. So we're happy that the project is really moving forward. So this item, again, is for action, and it was approved unanimously by the Finance Committee, and I'll turn it over to Commissioner Brian Scott for any other comments.
Thank you, Ashkash. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for that great presentation. The Finance Committee did have a very good discussion about this, and unanimously recommends approval of the design contract to H.W. Lochner for an amount not to exceed $1.7 million.
Thank you. And do we have questions from the board? Commissioner Justice?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Turn on your mic. Oh, you good? Okay. Go ahead. Thank you.
During the PDE process, after they're awarded the contract, during that phase, will they be having, I know they'll be talking with the City of St. Petersburg, but will they be having public hearings or public input as well as far as the design? I know when this was brought up at a county commission presentation, Chairman Welch, who is watching the meeting right now, online by the way, had a lot of questions and concerns about the lanes on First Avenue and the shifts and that taking lanes. So I wanted to see what level of public input would be in the process during that design part.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, absolutely. Community engagement will be a very important component, not just in the design phase, but also in the construction phase. And some of the questions such as the bat lanes and what kind of restrictions the bat lanes might impose, station locations, all of that will be certainly something that we will work with stakeholders, business owners, residents, neighborhood groups. And that's one of the reasons why we're also going to partner with the cities to make sure that we take their inputs and really reach out to all the groups we need to reach out to make sure we get their feedback as we advance the design.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Brian?
No, I think that covers it.
All right, do you want to turn off? Okay, I'm curious if you know the answer. What type of, did you learn anything from the feds about what type of strategies we might be able to work on to help move us up on that scale?
Madam Chair, we gave them an update on the progress of the project. We've also been having monthly conference calls with FTA, both at headquarters and the regional offices. So they're basically keeping us informed on any updates or any changes. Also, we have a fairly robust legislative agenda, especially with our federal lobbyists, engaging with our federal partners to really understand, what kind of strategies we should be deploying as we move the project forward.
Good, I'll look forward to that discussion at our legislative committee meeting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, now we are ready to take our votes on this issue. Rachel, would you please open the voting card? Do we have a motion? I apologize.
I'd like to make that motion.
Brian Scott motioned, and Commissioner Gerard second, and Alan?
Can we just state what the motion is? Say, I would like to make that motion. There wasn't a motion that was actually.
The motion is to, do you want to go ahead, or?
I'd like to make the motion to approve a contract with H.W. Lochner for design of the Central Avenue BRT project for an amount not to exceed $1.7 million.
We have a motion and a second. Would you please open the voting card? Thank you. Item 6B is to approve some recommended upcoming.
Moving forward, I almost forgot that I had to make my own presentation.
Seems like it's taken us a long time to get here, huh?
It's pretty exciting. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're preparing for what's next. 3 times a year, we actually make changes to our system. And generally, you all don't see those because they're minor. They're changes to the running times, making sure that we're staying on time. We make changes seasonally to make sure that we're taking into account the traffic volumes that we're trying to travel in. But this October service change is going to be something a little bit different, and we've had a really good experience going out to talk about these changes to the public. We're going to make some small but significant changes to our Route 52. This is our workhorse route of the entire system. You might have noted, for those of you who have been on the board a while, some of our large routes we've been splitting into 2 market segments when we can. So the Route 19 is now the Route 19 and the 34. The Route 59 is now the Route 59 and the 9. In the case of the Route 52, this is still a very long route. But in looking at the ridership, there was no clear place to cut it. But we also want to make sure that we're serving our customers in the best possible way. So in looking at this route, which carries more than 1 million people a year, we thought, let's take a look at how we can use the capacity in the routes 97 and the 98, which overlay this route in a way that makes sense, but also prepare us for a potential next BRT project. The Route 98 overlays the Route 52 on the northern portion connecting Carillon to Clearwater, while the Route 97 does the south half from downtown St. Petersburg to Carillon. So our proposed changes is to take this Route 97 and Route 98 and create a 52 LX. What this will be a limited stop service that will generally overlay the local route of the Route 52, but then also come into Carillon as well as the PSTA lay-by, which does not do consistently over the course of its service today. We would put this on top of the 52, which would be at 30-minute service, and the 52 LX would offer a 15-minute effective service during the peak hours. So we do have some extra capacity on the 97 and 98, which now the 52 riders will know that they can take either, but also get a faster trip. We will change a little bit on the weekday service, starting a little earlier and ending a little bit earlier, and as I mentioned, make better connections here to the PSTA lay-by so that we can have our riders get better connections to other routes that come in here. Another exciting service that will be changing is in downtown St. Petersburg. So for over 20 years, the Looper route has served St. Petersburg and the tourists quite well. It does have a daytime service and some evening service on the weekends. We'd like to take this route and change it to reflect the changes that have happened in downtown St. Petersburg in terms of the expanding residential market. And so that also means starting a little bit earlier, ending later during the weekdays, but also putting our new electric buses on this route as we connect into the Innovation District and the Employment Center at the south end of downtown. This has been a collaborative effort with the city, the St. Pete Downtown Partnership, which runs the Looper, and we've really enjoyed the work that we've been able to accomplish here and look forward to the launch of this service. We will be making some other smaller changes during our regular service change, and those are listed on your screen. We did hold a public hearing about the Route 52, 97, and 98 change, as it is required by your rules and regulations, and this was the first time that we had 100% positive comments at our public hearing. We also had an enthusiastic response at the Transit Riders Committee about the changes to the Route 52. So not only do we feel like we're doing the right thing to be efficient in the system, but we feel that this is the right thing for the riders and we can provide a better service overall. And so with that, I will turn it over to the chair, Commissioner Gerard of the Planning Committee, who also approved this change.
The Planning Committee reviewed these changes on October 7th, and given the enthusiastic response from the TRAC Committee, we unanimously recommend approval of these changes. And if you'd like a motion, I'd be glad to make that.
Well, before we have a motion, do we have any questions from the rest of the board? Commissioner Rice.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Cassandra for your terrific work on this as always, and just wanted to comment that, you know, on the St. Pete side with the new Looper service, this reflects how long have we been meeting monthly on this with the chamber and other stakeholders in the community to really vet out, it seemed like every twist and turn of this new service. And so please know that what you're looking at has been really completely vetted and has faced a lot of scrutiny. And thank you for your hard work on that and working with our community partners on this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Eggers.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. And it's nice to be, you know, targeting some of those, you know, well-used, I guess, routes to reinforce them a little bit. Just curious from a capital standpoint, capital requirement for this or operating, do you see it kind of just being shifted around a little bit, or do you see significant increased demand on capital or operating?
We don't see very many changes to the operating or the capital, and that's because we're taking resources from the 97 and 98 and essentially rebranding them into the 52. And so this is as much a communication effort as a service change.
Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Commissioner Caudell.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassandra. We're excited about this. I just have a quick question. As you came to our council meeting recently and we approved some funding for the Jolly Trolley services, expanded services, and we're very happy about that. Your report was about how high the increase in ridership by 46%, and also the fare box for Clearwater has been even through the roof with ridership. So with that said, the 52 and 52LX, how is that, does that play a part in some relief on the the route as it relates to in that area? Will it touch on some of the services as it relates to connecting the PSTA Jolly Trolley combination services? So where are we at with that?
So the Route 52 connects into downtown Clearwater and would connect to the South Beach route. And so folks that were traveling from other parts of the county would be able to efficiently get into downtown and then get, if they had a job out at the beach, then get on either Jolly Trolley or the Suncoast Beach Trolley from our Park Street terminal in downtown Clearwater.
So that would enhance then the connection going north also into Dunedin and into the other areas, since we've expanded the services all the way up to Tarpon, is that correct? Since you have that transfer hub at downtown?
Yeah, all of those routes come into the Park Street terminal in downtown Clearwater.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, and now we're,
I had one quick.
go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Cassandra, thank you so much for your hard work on this. These all look like wonderful changes. Just one, I guess, comment, quick question is, whenever we've made route changes in the past, it seems like in subsequent board meetings, we have displaced riders that suddenly show up and suddenly I can't get to my bus stop and you've taken my route away or this. Do we anticipate that we've negatively impacted anybody that, and do we have accommodations, you know, in the wings to handle that if it does materialize?
Absolutely. There are very few sections of the existing 97 and 98 that will not be covered, and they would be in the Carillon area. And so it would be, however, there is a lot of, let's say, there's a lot of capacity on those routes that we would like to be able to be used by other riders, and we think that overall this will give our riders on the 52 a better service and hopefully increase the ridership on the combination of the 52 and the new 52 LX. Anyone who feels that if they work in Carillon and they regularly take the 97 or the 98, they do not feel like they get a complete trip. The PSTA lay-by is a direct connect stop, and so we've already taken that into consideration, and no one should be displaced.
Perfect, great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. All right, and now, Commissioner Gerard, do you wish to make a motion?
I would love to make a motion to approve these changes.
Second. All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Gerard and seconded by Commissioner Rice. Would you please open the voting card?
I'm a yes.
Thank you. All right, so now we are on these thoughts on them. While I would expect that we will support this action to get public input, it's important for us to hear the presentation from Brad and from Heather Sobish and Whit Blanton on the recommendations so that we're very clear on what we're voting about. Brad.
Thank you. Again, this is an action item today to take some of the recommendations that you're about to hear out to the public. We are coordinating this very carefully with Forward Pinellas and their long-range transportation plan, so I'll ask Whit to come up and make a few remarks about that before Heather and I get up.
Thank you. Good morning again.
Good morning.
I'm really excited about this because we are, for the first time, really creating one plan for PSTA and Forward Pinellas. And we've branded it Advantage Pinellas, and we've talked a little bit about this. And I want to step back and put this a little bit in the regional context too, because remember, I've talked to you before about the three-ring binder idea of the regional long-range transportation plan being the first 50 pages of that three-ring binder, and then the next 50 pages would be the insert for each county, for Pinellas, for Pasco, or for Hillsborough. What we're talking about now are the second 50 pages, the Advantage Pinellas piece. And what we're really looking at here is more than just co-branding, but it's a transportation strategy. And we've also engaged Pinellas County, which is doing a complete streets assessment countywide. The city of St. Petersburg has done a complete streets implementation plan. And the city of Clearwater is about to embark on a citywide complete streets program. So all of those things are coming together under this Advantage Pinellas umbrella. And so you won't hear me refer much to the long-range transportation plan. I don't think you'll hear a lot about community bus plan. We'll be talking more and more about Advantage Pinellas as a strategy. And I guess our basic premise of this is that Pinellas County has done a very good job building a thoroughfare road network. with an intelligent transportation system that's funded with a penny from gas tax revenues. We've built a beautiful Pinellas Trail, and we're about to expand that to 75 miles looping around the county. What we haven't done a great job is investing in our transit network and in our safer streets. So that's a big focus of where we're coming from for Advantage Pinellas, is to really bring up that third leg of the stool so that we have all of our transportation modes functioning at a high level of efficiency and effectiveness in the county. And that'll reap a lot of rewards for not just mobility, but for economic development and opportunity. So one of the things we really want to do is make sure we're linking the transit strategies with affordable housing, redevelopment, and local economic development efforts throughout the county. So this is really embracing the vision for the US 19 corridor, the Gateway Area Master Plan that's underway, and enhancing beach community access. So there's a 5-point plan essentially that is behind the Advantage Pinellas initiative. First, in working in partnership with PSTA and agencies like TBARTA, is defining our premium transit corridors to improve travel time, frequency, reliability, and convenience. Second is to look at each one of these core corridors where we might introduce express bus service with limited stops or bus rapid transit or other types of transit signal priority, and understand from a regulatory and economic incentive standpoint, what are we doing to promote redevelopment in these corridors, quality redevelopment that's supported by the community. The third piece of this is to identify how we can begin to introduce discretionary or dedicated revenues to strengthen these core services. And right now the strategy is taking underperforming services and reallocating some of those resources to strengthen the core routes. But we hope that eventually we'll be able to tap into some additional revenue sources to really improve transit overall. And we'll see what that discussion is like over the next several months. And then our job at the MPO is to prioritize these corridors for state and federal funding. So we will then be looking at the local government partners to say, what have you done from an affordable housing, from a complete streets, from an economic redevelopment standpoint that we can use as a basis for prioritizing these corridors. So we will see where the interest is in Pinellas County to make sure that we put these high on our priority list. And then work continued with PSTA and with the county on clarifying roles and responsibilities of the different agencies as this goes forward. So we're really looking at creating mutual win-win advantages for our county by growing our resources so that transit routes can be expanded strategically and equitably throughout the county, changing the perceptions of affordable housing and transit because it's really workforce housing and it's providing opportunities for people to have choices about where they live and how they get around the county. And then really keeping a focus on equity because we need to make sure that we're not further disenfranchising folks who depend on public transportation and those resources, and that's a wide range of people in our county. And then as we look at these corridors is how can we develop the stations and station areas so that they provide an opportunity for people to become transit riders on a regular basis, either by walking to the transit service or living right close to the transit station or being able to connect through other types of mobility services that would tie people in. And then finally, what is your complete street strategy for connecting into the corridor? Not necessarily along Roosevelt and East Bay, but how you might feed into Roosevelt and East Bay from the neighborhoods. And we'll be looking at the countywide plan and what regulatory tools that we have to incentivize local governments where desired to establish the redevelopment areas so that we have mixed-use, walkable neighborhoods feeding into those transit centers. So that's the goal and what we're trying to accomplish with the Advantage Pinellas program. And I'll now turn it back over to PSTA staff to talk about some of the improvements in the core services.
Excuse me, just for one moment, Whit, before you leave the podium. Where are we in terms of the workshop that there was some discussion about a little bit ago with regard to focusing on the different funding pots and how we may better work together to access them?
We are right now targeting that workshop for January or February, which will feed right into when we need to establish what our financially feasible long-range transportation plan will be. So we wanted to kind of let the new county administrator come on board and get some footing before we rushed into that conversation.
And that's great. It just gives me a little bit of a concern, though, in terms of how that might impact our legislative packages going forward. Is that anywhere on your radar as
It
well?
is, and we're laying the groundwork for that because there are some things that I've got our legal team working on to see if there's anything that we need to do to approach the legislature to enable some of these strategies to happen. I don't think there are, but we are going to be doing our homework and making sure that we're prepared for that.
Okay, we'll chat.
We will continue to coordinate.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Brad?
Okay, well, thank you very much, Whit. So I'm just going to kick this off and sort of just emphasize that this is a very important thing that we need to do because we're in 2018. The transit system, the PSTA has been operating, really has not changed that much since about 1925. And it is a totally different world out there than it was even 5 years ago when we did a community bus plan previously. We have to coordinate in lockstep with Ford Pinellas and the land use plans that this county has in order to have a successful transit system. My slide shows that the action item today is just to take this out and get more public input, which hopefully will be approved. But then it'll come probably December or maybe January back to the board and changed because we've gotten public input to approve significant changes to our transit system, to the routes and the setup. Because as I crossed off there deliberately, PSTA is no longer can be viewed as a transit system or a bus company, but a mobility company. That is what we have to move forward in 2018. There's just so many changes to the transportation network, as we've been talking about, as we've been taking advantage of, that these changes are going to be needed. The discussions that Whit and Chair Long were talking about having a discussion about alternative revenue sources is a way to get there, a way to invest more. But this idea that we want to invest more in our core routes is really the way I'm going to recommend strongly that we have to move forward with. As we mentioned, we are working in lockstep with Ford Pinellas, co-branding this. We've already done a lot of public input that has gotten us to this point, and we're going to do a lot more. And most importantly, I think, compared to 5 years ago when we had a similar plan before the board that the board approved, but then we ultimately didn't really implement, we have taken advantage of the new technology. And we have an option, an alternative for folks that may not live or work right next to a bus stop anymore by taking Direct Connect. As you heard Bonnie at the beginning of the meeting today talk, this is a program that is starting to really get its foundation and be a real system for many, many more people. You can see in your report the ridership is really growing on it. And this is something we did not have before that I feel good about. As we all know, ridership on our traditional bus system at PSTA has been dropping for the last couple years. This is a report from our benchmarking group that looks at 22 different cities across the United States, and there's many, many more cities. Virtually every city in the United States has seen ridership declines on its traditional bus services. Not on Jolly Trolley or our tourist-oriented services like Central Avenue Trolley or the Suncoast Trolley down the beach, but on our regular bus services, ridership has been in decline. And you can see it in every city, it's been in decline. Our decline has actually been a little bit less than average, nationwide average, because of our tourist economy. And that has kept our arrow a little bit less. The system, as I've mentioned, at PSTA, in Pinellas County, the transit system has not been changed for a very long time. It was set up essentially to have the buses go take people to every mall that was being built in the county. If you look at where we hub and buses come in and out and people transfer, it's at all the malls. It's at Tyrone Square Mall. It's at Gateway. It's at, well, Clearwater Mall used to be there. It's no longer there. Countryside Mall. and Pinellas Park. Shopping, and as you know, all those malls are struggling with online sales. Shopping is completely changing. We're not carrying too many shoppers to Tyrone Square Mall anymore. And we're not carrying that many workers to Tyrone Square Mall anymore too either, because the shops are going away. That's an example of why we need to look at a different system. If you look at our route network, we have 50% of all of our service on the main roads and main corridors of Pinellas County. But 50% of this service is on other, more neighborhood, local roads, meandering in and out of the different neighborhoods. There are a few cities, very few, that have seen ridership increases. Houston changed their 50-50 system that was a lot like PSTA's to 80% core, 20% coverage, and saw a ridership increase. And at all the planning conferences that Heather and Cassandra go to, Houston is up there talking, everyone is trying to learn from Houston how they did that. And it's by investing in their core routes. Jacksonville did the same thing. Our consultant who's doing a great job with our presentation, Tim Rosenberger, who's here, talks about how they did this overnight. They made all of these changes overnight and immediately saw a ridership increase. And Seattle didn't really necessarily move services from the coverage routes to the core routes, but they invested more resources into their core routes and have also seen a ridership increase. So that's what PSTA is recommending to do as well. Take the resources from our low ridership, low performing routes, and reinvest those into the high ridership, high traffic corridors of Pinellas County. Taking the inefficient service and taking the bus drivers and the buses and the resources and investing those where we can be competitive and where the ridership is. And with that, I will let Heather kind of give you a little bit more detail.
Yes,
Morning,
thanks.
Heather.
Good morning, and thanks, Brad. And as Brad mentioned, the keys to improving ridership are really to provide services that are fast, frequent, and convenient. So we want routes that are straighter, that don't meander all through the neighborhoods. We want maybe some limited stop routes on our high volume corridors. And then we want to work with our local jurisdictions to implement priority measures for transit on some of those high ridership corridors. We want services that are frequent, that the core routes operate at a minimum of 15-minute headways. And then we want services that are convenient and easy for the public to understand. So that means providing consistent headways. That means buses that pulse at our major transfer centers. So for example, someone riding Route 19 knows when they get to Largo Transit Center, Route 34 will be there and they won't have to wait 30 minutes for it. And then we want to have amenities at our high ridership stops. And then finally, first and last mile services like that Direct Connect program that Brad mentioned that allow people to easily connect in from the neighborhoods. And when core services are fast and frequent and convenient, more people ride. Existing riders use it for more trips. People who have cars but maybe struggle to afford them can use transit for more of their trips. And then some people with cars will ride transit and perhaps stick with it. So ridership will go up, as will fare revenue. So as Brad mentioned, here's the ridership routes. Our top 6 routes carry almost 50% of our ridership, but only use 30% or only get 30% of our resources. While our lowest ridership routes carry only 3% of our riders and get about 10% of our resources. Our highest ridership routes are also the most productive, carrying about 24 trips per revenue hour, while our lowest ridership routes carry less than 10. So if we moved our resources from our lowest performing routes into our highest performing routes, they would produce more trips. And while we are talking about reducing service on a number of routes, 77% of our riders would see better service, including a lot of our low-income riders. And then as we could not say 5 years ago, 100% of people in Pinellas County now have access to PSTA services through our Direct Connect program, our late shift program, and our up-and-coming same-day DART service program. So today we're looking at about 50% core, 50% coverage. And then in the future, we're talking about having 64% of our resources in our core network, in our frequent local network, and then 30% in our coverage network. And as shown here, you see the recommended network, and then all of our 24 Direct Connect locations that allow people from the neighborhoods to easily access our core network. So again, in summary, we're talking about improving services in our core network with 15 to 20 minute service on our core and frequent local routes, and then also limited stop services on routes 4, 18, and 52. And this will make it faster for the riders because the bus won't be stopping as much. It'll improve the reliability and also prepare those corridors for future bus rapid transit. What we're asking today is that you let us go out and talk with the public about these recommendations. We already have a website and we'll be adding to that. And then we're already starting to set up meetings for the months of September and October to go out to committees, stakeholder groups, to hold public workshops, and to go talk with all of our riders. Finally, our goal, once again, is to increase our service on the core routes. And what we're trying to do right now is do that within our existing resources. So we do know that when we go talk to the public, it will be difficult for some people because some service will be reduced, and so we will likely make some modifications to our recommendations that we'll bring back to you later. But there are also the other ways to get to this improved core service, which, as Brad mentioned, include increased resources. And then the workshop that Whit was talking about, talking with the county, PSTA, Ford Pinellas about how to explore different revenue options. Again, the recommendation is that you would authorize us to go out and speak with the public, and then we would bring back any revised recommendations to you in the December timeframe. And with that, the Planning Committee had actually a really good discussion about these recommendations and did act to recommend that we do get to go out and start talking with the public. So I'll turn it over to the Planning Committee Chair, Commissioner Gerard.
Well, we did review this plan and pretty much concluded that we don't have much choice but to hit your button. My button is hit.
Okay.
Okay. I hit it. Well, yes, we would love to hear what the public has to say about this, and we expect that it won't be anything like when we were trying to change, what was it, 444, and we almost got run out of town. Because we put these innovations in place in the first and last mile things, and you know, frankly, the only way that we're going to be able to increase frequency is to do something like this. And we've been hearing for years and years that we need to increase the frequency to make it a viable system. So we can't wait to hear what the public says.
Very good. Commissioner Banther?
Yes, thank you. Do I press this button, or do I just deactivate myself?
Press the button.
There we go. Okay, thank you. This all sounds very exciting, and I'm sure it's as you said, much needed to move forward. Obviously, when I hear of low ridership routes or more inefficient routes being cut, I tend to be cautious because I represent the north part of the county. So what can you tell me now that's planned as far as changes up there, and then Tarpon Springs, Oldmar Safety Harbor area?
Well, in the Tarpon Springs area, one of our better performing routes, Route 19, serves the Tarpon Springs area. And so most of the Tarpon Springs ridership is on that route. We also have a direct connect stop up there that a lot of people utilize. So that route is if anything, going to improve. Okay. And then we also have the Jolly Trolley Coastal Route, which currently operates every 60 minutes. And so that route, we do not have any changes recommended for. And what with Safety Harbor? Mm-hmm. Safety Harbor, that is one of our connector routes that has low ridership, and right now it is being recommended for elimination. Mm-hmm. So we would look to talk to all of those riders and teach them how to use the Direct Connect program to feed into the
like
system.
The Uber, first mile, last mile. Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Yes, I know at least in Tarpon Springs, the population that depends on this is very low income. It's mm-hmm. It's not tourist or right. necessarily residents working down county, but it's our low income. Individuals, and I think that area in Tarpon Springs off US 19 is identified as one of the most lower income areas in the county. So it's very important that we maintain the transit system for them. So mm-hmm. I appreciate that, and I hope that we will be holding one of these meetings in North County to get the input. Right, Brad?
Yes,
that's right. That's okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we have Commissioner Tornga. Did you, please press your light.
I'm sorry, that was from before, I'm off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone down here? Commissioner Rice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is overdue. This is something that we've talked about, needed to do for a long time. And as Commissioner Gerard stated earlier, that we now have technology to help us facilitate the first mile, last mile ways to kind of fill in the gaps as we cut some of these lower performing routes. And that's the key difference between this conversation today and the one we had, I don't know, maybe a couple years ago. Just a comment, and I'm sure you all are very aware of this, but one of the things that I think we have to be aware of in dealing with the public and public outreach and managing expectations is that the fear of losing something is far more impactful than the feeling people have when they get it back later. So losing a route means, yes, there will be better service, yes, there will be these first mile, last mile innovations, but that fear of losing the route will be predominant. And I think it's maybe a key to understanding why we have so many people come out to protest cutting a route. And it almost seems like we have more people that come out to protest it than our numbers show even use the bus in the first place. And perhaps we should be delicate but firm in pointing that out, rather than have the drama of a room full of people. I think we need to know when it's drama and when we know that it's a real concern being articulated by our ridership. I also just wanted to play devil's advocate here. Going back to the examples of Houston, it was a 2% ridership increase. Jacksonville, 5%, Seattle, 1%. Convince me that those numbers are impressive.
And maybe Brad can contribute to this as well because he has his ABBG knowledge, but I know that many systems around the country are declining 11, 12, 15%. And so to gain even 1% is very impressive.
So reversing that, so even though maybe 1% doesn't sound great at first, what the takeaway is that we're reversing a pretty powerful trend going in the opposite direction.
Yes. And there are other systems, Seattle, I was recently in Vancouver, that have also gained ridership, and they have done so by, I meant Phoenix, by investing in those core networks. So correct, reversing the trend, and then hopefully seeing some increase in the future.
Okay.
Thanks. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Commissioner Bennett.
Yes, I'm certainly in favor of being more effective and more efficient, and I think that this is a great plan. But as a board, we don't want groups of people coming to us and saying, I now can't get to the shopping center or get to work. So your presentations to those people that are going to be their rides eliminated is very important. And I think that you should even invite some of the people to come to here to our meeting who you've eliminated their ride and have them tell us that I now ride the Uber and I love it. I'd like to hear some of that. Not that I can't get to work or I can't get to the shopping center. Thank you.
Okay, we will work to find more of those success stories.
Thank you. And Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, well, thank you for the presentation. Obviously, for our organization moving forward, whether it's from a capital or operational standpoint, we're looking for sustainability. And I think Whit touched on that chapter 1, which is the regional, pick the chapter of the book, which I think we're not talking about today. We're talking about the second chapter of the book and what we do within Pinellas County. And I think some of these give us the chance to be sustainable. The new technology opportunities give us a chance to continue connecting potentially disenfranchised folks if we move to this without that technology. And I think that's what Anna Darden was saying a minute ago. And so I think we have to continue to explore those disenfranchised groups, ones that don't even use transit today. And I've had some conversation we all have had with our folks that either are part of the senior group, our elder-friendly community or county that we have and cities that we have, where that connection is an untapped source, because there's a lot of people that are living at homes that are, and it's growing, that need to get out and about. And so this first connect, or the direct connect, is really that, that source of mobility for them. And I think we need to continue exploring that, especially when I look at the map. And I know Commissioner Panther was talking about North County. When I look at the North County map, I see very little available. And yet I think that that part that I was just talking about, some of the folks that are in the poverty zones that we've got in North County, but also the elderly that just have to continue to be educated and show how they can still get out and about. It's a really critical part of being able to be mobile and enjoy life and to be a part of it without, feeling closed in or locked in because they can't drive anymore. So I just want to continue to having that exploration as we become more and more effective and efficient. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Eggers. Anyone else on this topic? Anyone? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, Patty, I'm so sorry. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I think that you will find, if you do some research, our transportation disadvantaged continues to work with all of its providers to get those services to the elderly that are transportation disadvantaged. And we will continue to. One of the problems that we have had and still continue to have are almost being able to walk neighborhoods and knock on doors. I'm to the point after all these years of thinking that's the only way we're going to get the message out, because we see people, we hear them, we talk to them, but we can't get to that core bunch of people that you're talking about, Dave. And you were there before me in transportation disadvantaged, so you know how hard it is. The Neighborly Senior Services, all of the parts of our board that work, We Care, all of them are still having a problem getting the word out. There is transportation available. So we're there and we're ready to serve them. Just getting the message out's tough.
Yeah, can I just?
Please. Yes.
And I 100% agree with you, because I continue to make that comment that no matter how good we think we do in communicating, we never measure up. I mean, it doesn't mean we're not trying. It doesn't mean we try to get more creative. And it's really important that we understand that we're not connecting. I mean, we're not. We're doing a better job, but we got to keep working hard at that. And I'm talking about, the disenfranchised folks are folks who can't afford a lot of transit, but also there's others that can afford it, but don't understand how to plug into this new technologies that are out there. And I just want to make sure that we continue focusing on that group as well. So there's two or three or many subsets of that. But you're right, communication and letting people know what we have available is just next to impossible almost. But we got to keep at it and not lose sight of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your passion and for your comments. And it leads me to wonder, and I'm just asking Brad because I don't know. In Pinellas County, we have many adult congregate living facilities where you'll have maybe a dozen big, huge buildings filled with 55 and older. Yeah. And part of the problem is exposure, because people have this image in their mind of what it's like to ride the bus. And I'm just wondering, given all of the investments we've made in our new buses that are just beautiful and very comfy, if we could put a program in place to do presentations at their, or do a coffee hour or a gathering where we had some incentive for them to ride the bus. I don't know, go to the mall or get a group and, and just show them how easy it is. Because part of it is just not knowing.
Yeah.
As an example to that, there's just a facility in the middle of Dunedin called Meese Manor, and they have a continuing care, so they have a retirement community, and that is just as active as any of us are. I mean, they happen to live at Meese Manor, and they participate in all the elder activities in Dunedin. So they'll go to the community center and run into others that are there. So the word starts to get out about opportunities, and whether it's the new bus or whether it is that first mile, that direct connect piece that you can actually get out of your house and go do something. But you're right, if you can connect with those folks, and not necessarily talking about the nursing home folks as far as getting the word out, but the retirement folks that are they're out there.
And they all have activity directors. So if we worked through them, it could be something as simple as taking a group to Ruth Eckerd in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. Yeah.
Those are actually great suggestions, and I do want to let you know we do have a great public outreach team. And actually, I have personally spoken at Meese Dunedin, although I spoke there a couple of years ago, and there was a packed room, and they did come out and listen.
There you go.
And we've done Freedom Village, and we've done Presbyterian Towers, and I'm sure there's many others that I don't even know about. But that is part of our plan, both with talking about these recommendations, but also teaching the Direct Connect program. And so we will be doing that in the next couple months and doing more of that.
Excellent. Very good discussion.
I was just going to highlight, there's been some good leadership by the City Commission of Tarpon Springs and the mayor up there to try to do exactly as you described and inform specifically senior citizens in Tarpon Springs about the different services we offer. We have 2 upcoming meetings at the Senior Center in Tarpon Springs on August 27th and 30th, where our outreach team is going to be there speaking to seniors, taking them perhaps on a Jolly Trolley bus ride, as we've done once to great success because the Greek food is so great up there. But I think that's exactly what you're talking about, trying to come up with different ways. We heard it yesterday about the BRT at South Pasadena, as Abhishek mentioned. The commission wants us to take us to each one of those big condos, 55-plus condos, and get a group together and talk about bat lanes and stuff like that too. I mean, it's everywhere. Exactly what you said.
Great discussion. All right, and Commissioner Gerard, did you know?
No, I just wanted to move that we approve taking this out to the public. Okay.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Gerard, seconded by Commissioner Caudill. Could you please open the voting card? Excellent, thank you, and that was approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our performance scorecard. Thank you, Trish.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, the esteemed board. I'm here to present the Quarter 3 organization scorecard, which I believe all of you have at your places. I'd like to start out by covering what you're looking at. You have one page, which is the scorecard itself. You have a second page, which are comments where we felt additional information might be necessary on several of the metrics. The code that begins each comment identifies which metric it applies to. And then the third page that you have is our set of parameters, which includes the definitions of each metric. So what are we talking about? What do we mean when we are describing the metric? On your scorecard page, the first page, I will bring your attention to our Q3 score of 90 points out of 100. This shows that we are still very effectively meeting our large bucket key strategy goals of community support, financial stability, customer satisfaction, employee engagement, and commitment to performance. I do want to call your attention to 2 items that you will see are coded in red. We use a color coding system to very quickly identify areas that we are looking at which need additional attention. That's Org 1, the community survey, and Org 13, the employee engagement survey. Both surveys have now been completed, and results will be reported in Q4. So both of those will end up with an on-time completion for the year, and that will be shown in Q4. So with that, I will also say that we're looking forward to bringing you our metric scorecard for fiscal year 19. So we'll be doing that next month. We'll be bringing that to the Planning Committee first, and then to the board. So you'll have an opportunity to see and review and approve the metrics that we're recommending for FY19. So with that, I would like to open up for any questions or comments that you have.
No questions? Brian, you always have a question on this.
We did talk about it.
We did, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, we discussed this actually at a pretty good length at the Finance Committee meeting last week. And I think the general consensus of the committee was we're pretty pleased with this. And it was at the last time this was presented, we were sort of concerned that it showed we were almost perfect. And this one showed that, not that we're looking for fault, but it was hard to believe that we were perfect. And this kind of showed that some areas that needed improvement, but areas that we were making progress on. And we were overall pretty pleased with it. So, yeah.
I specifically remember the conversation with Commissioner Bennett, and he was looking for ways to improve and not be so perfect, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Commissioner Edwards.
Yeah, and I think the point, and I think is what, anytime you start this, you try to best define it as a working, using tool that we can improve from, or see our faults, or see where we need to improve. And I think as we continue to use this and develop it further, I think it's going to become more and more a tool that we use. So you got to start somewhere sometime. I think we've made a great beginning, and I continue to look for that refinement as we go along. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Bennett?
Thank you, Chairman Long. Just a quick question. I look at the annual budget variance on it. And our goal, I guess, is to be less than 2% off. Is that not correct?
Correct, yes.
And I don't understand how we get an 11.
If we meet our goal of being less than or equal to 2% of our budget, that goal is worth 10 points. We are more than 10% exceeding that goal. We are exceeding that by greater than 10%. So on our scorecard development, we allowed for bonus points for areas that we are exceeding the actual goal. So that's how we got 11 out of 10 points there, because we're doing great with our budget.
So if at the end of the year, Debbie does an outstanding job and is absolutely perfect, how many points will we get?
There is a cap of up to 10% of bonus points on that. So it would not be a score greater than 11, even if we came in 50% below budget.
So we're absolutely perfect with our budget so far this year.
We are at greater than 2% below budget on so far for this year. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is that it, Commissioner Bennett? Do you have
That's
more?
fine, thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Rice.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Wait, I'm sorry, I guess I inadvertently turned you. Thanks. There you go.
Could we talk a little bit about the sustainability indicator number and how we're doing and how we could get that number nudged back up a little bit?
Sure, yeah. I would like to maybe ask for some staff support on that one. If Cassandra Borchers wouldn't mind maybe speaking to that role. That metric is owned by our planning department, and they're very focused on the environmental sustainability initiatives, both measuring them, monitoring them, and then looking at improvements that we can generate in that area.
Could you just repeat the question for me?
I just wanted to hear your comment on the 3.8 number and what our plans are to see that number bumped up a little bit.
So part of that is working on our sustainability plan and looking at the metrics that APTA puts out as part of being a signatory on the sustainability agreement that we have. So we are at the bronze level and we'd like to move up to the silver level. So In order to do that, we will need to improve some of those metrics that we have in that sustainability plan, as well as have them mirror up with what the APTA signatory is about.
Are we en route to do that?
So, like, you're probably more familiar than I am, but most sustainability programs like this, they basically have you set a benchmark on a whole bunch of different activities that your organization does, and then show improvement, or set goals and then show improvement on those benchmarks. So this, on the scorecard, our goal is to show improvement on half of the, I can't remember, 10 or 15 APTA things that we're measuring ourselves on. So a score that equals the 5 points that could get max means that we are achieving, we're meeting improving on half the goals. And if it's a little bit less, which I can't remember if it maybe is, that means that we're maybe improving on 3 instead of 5 or something like that. That's how that's measured.
Could we, at some point, maybe have a presentation come to the planning committee to kind of hear some more details on that?
Yeah.
And it seems like once we get through this stage of kind of picking up the quote-unquote low-hanging fruit, that the next stage of steps requires more effort and probably some things that we need to see commitments reflected in the capital budget to make sure that we are sticking to our goals. So we don't have to take that up now, but if we could dig into it maybe at a planning committee meeting, that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. All right, now we have some very interesting board reports. I don't think there's any other questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That Brad is going to give us some updates on some very interesting things going on at PSTA. Right, Brad?
That's right. There's always something interesting going on at PSTA. So in your packet are the regular performance updates that you see every month. On future meeting subjects, of course, we have a very busy schedule. Not necessarily PSTA meetings, but as was mentioned by the chair, Caudell of Ford Pinellas, on Monday is the workshop that I believe all of you have been invited to at the Epicenter just down here about the Transportation Leadership Forum, talking about a regional approach to MPOs. That's on Monday. Before Monday, on Friday, is the TBARTA meeting. It's going to be over at Hart, where, as Commissioner Long was talking about. And then I think the following Friday is a TMA meeting, so regionalism all over the place in the next couple of weeks. Our next PSTA meeting will be actually our first budget hearing. So the next 2 times you'll come to this room will be in the evening at 6 o'clock. September 12th is our first budget hearing, and then September 26th, we combine the second budget hearing with our regular meeting for the month of September, but it has to be, it's at 6 o'clock. So we'll have the budget on that agenda. As Trish just mentioned, we're going to be working with the Finance Committee this coming month on setting our goals for our performance scorecard goals for 2019, so look forward to that. Some good news that we learned yesterday in a very innovative way from a tweet from Senator Marco Rubio, that PSTA was awarded another $1 million in the Low-No grant funding. I think that is a reliable source, but we'll have to see. I believe we have. Harry Glenn has confirmed it, so we'll be able to get 2 more electric buses to our fleet. And I think it looked like we were one of maybe 3 systems in Florida that were awarded those low-no funds. Speaking of that, you have at your places an invitation on October 3rd to come to downtown St. Pete to look under this wrap and see the first electric bus in the Tampa Bay area unveiled, because it's part of our Looper expansion that Cassandra mentioned earlier. And we're going to be launching that at St. Pete City Hall. We're going to have the event on October 3rd.
What time?
At 10:30. Doesn't say that on here, I don't
No.
Oh.
That's why I asked.
10:30. As I mentioned, thanks to Commissioner Banther and the City of Tarpon Springs for helping us get the word out, especially to senior citizens, about our innovative programs and our services at 2 senior citizen-focused events on August 27th and August 30th. And thanks to the Commission for approving their the Jolly Trolley agreement for the North Coastal route. I think that makes now every city has now approved it for next year, so that's great. With that, I think that I'm sure I'll see you guys around at another meeting or two. Thanks.
Yes, Commissioner Eggers?
Yeah, just on you were talking about the electric buses here. I was just looking at under the reports. It seems like in the Finance Committee, we get to talk about all the fun stuff, like, breaks and, things like that.
We do.
And Henry, I do mean that. We love talking about that. But there's a part here that talks about 25 generators. I don't remember talking about that at our meeting. What is that for? And what are the 25 electric generators for? Just curious.
And where are you looking? Where you said?
Page 1 of 2 under performance updates for the month of July.
Okay.
Where it has that big down 3.7%, right below that.
Oh, yes,
Purchases
okay.
between 25 and 100. I was just wondering what that was.
Morning, Henry Lukasik,
Hi.
Director of Maintenance. A generator is just another name for an alternator.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I was envisioning, generators for storms that come, or generators for electric buses, or so it's an alternator.
Good question.
Appreciate it.
And specifically, thanks for highlighting this part of the report. The PSTA rules and the board's rules and regulations require, as you know, any contract that is over $100,000 has to be approved by the PSTA board, and the Finance Committee typically looks at those and then approves those. Any contract that is between $25,000 and $100,000 is under my authority to approve, and 80% of those or 90% of those are maintenance-related things that we buy. But we report anything between 25 and 100 gets reported here. I'm not sure why the coach crafters, which was approved by last month, is on here, but that's why that was on there.
Thank you very much. Anything else from the board members? All right, and now we are on to other business and board comments. So without further ado, let's start with Commissioner Bennett this time.
I don't have any comment.
Nothing?
No comment?
Nothing?
No.
Commissioner Eggers?
No.
Commissioner Scott?
I thought we had a really good meeting, thought we made some really good, important decisions today. So really pleased about that, and we've got some good direction going here. And then, Brad, just had a quick question for you. I was just thinking during the meeting, do we have another sale plan on monthly bus passes? And in the last few times we've done that, it seemed to be pretty successful. I was wondering if we had plans to do that in the future.
I have a lot of plans to do that in the future. We are in the throes right now of implementing our new Flamingo Fares smart card system. So, and of course that's a whole regional system. It's quite complex with Hart and Pasco, and so I'm told that I need to just hold off a little bit on the next sale. I'm not going to hold off very long, but I mean, we'll hold off just a little bit until the technology catches up and we can do it within the Flamingo system. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gerard?
I have no comments.
Commissioner Caudell?
I have no comments, thank you.
Commissioner Banther?
I want to thank Cassandra for coming down, I guess for coming up to Tarpon Springs twice for our meetings. We got to pass the Jolly Trolley agreement last night. We had one commissioner that had some concerns, so that's why it took 2 meetings, but it passed unanimously, and that's a huge benefit to Tarpon Springs, and I'm very thankful for that as well. Also, Brad, could you get me information so I write this accurately? I want to write a letter to Oldsmar and Safety Harbor commissions about some of the upcoming changes with these new routes and possible public meetings. So I want to make sure though I have the accurate information, that I phrase it in a way that's positive and first mile, last mile, which I'm pretty sure Safety Harbor will be very receptive to that. I don't think they have the same needs as Tarpon does with transportation. And also thank you for your kind words about our work in Tarpon Springs about elderly transportation. Hopefully we can be a model for different pockets in the county that have those needs. And I appreciate staff taking that time to work with our mayor on that. I know it's a very important issue to him, so thank you very much.
Commissioner Tornga.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a quick comment, and I appreciate what Brian Scott said, and I appreciate what David has been saying, Dave Eggers has been saying regarding the communication with the folks on the outside. So I just want to make a reminder, I really appreciate what staff has been doing here. I appreciate the real hard look at this core concept, and I really like that, and I think that was an important decision that Brian Scott was talking about. Just remember, if you don't mind, please, just keep reiterating that you know it, you walk it, you talk it all the time, and then there's others that don't so much. And we find that particularly among, shall we say, the elderly. They get confused and they forget. And then we try to come back and remind them. So although it seems redundant to you, please just keep doing that over and over and over again, even though you know it's redundant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Justice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of things. So we got official word of $1 million grant through Twitter.
Yes.
So my question is, if you like it, you're accepting the grant. If you retweet, are you denying the grant? I mean, what's the contractual language in there? No. I did want to ask for, we get some great flyers all the time at our desk. And sometimes, and if they're coming by email, I haven't seen them, but if we could get them in a JPEG or picture image form so that we can share with our social media, I think that would be helpful to spread the word, especially when we're recruiting citizen engagement. I had a citizen ask me, so I thought I'd ask you, have we ever done, I haven't been on the board that many years, but have we done free rides on election day for voters? Are we be doing that in November?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And then the only last thing I had is to wish Vice Mayor Caudell a very happy birthday.
Thank you. Oh, now, we were going to sing to her at the end, and you just ruined it.
Just added to it. Added to it.
Well, since he brought it up, how about we all sing happy birthday to Commissioner Caudell? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Doreen. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll try not to ruin anything else this morning.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Johnson.
There just isn't any way to outdo what's already been done, so. Great meeting, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice.
Welcome aboard, Abhishek. That's it.
Thank you. I just have a couple things I wanted to bring to everyone's attention. For those of you that were here last year, you may remember we had quite a robust discussion about committee assignments and nominations, and I wanted to let you know that that time of the year is coming upon us, and to please be thinking about what different kind of role or maybe a committee you might want to serve on next year. We also do the nominations for board officers again, right, Brad?
Right.
When will that all be coming to us?
Well, the first step is Rachel will send out a poll, so after you've done your, as Commissioner Long said, you're thinking about it, then Rachel will be sending out a poll for you to express your interests, and then the nominating committee will meet probably in October sometime to make the recommendations. Ultimately, you'll approve at your early December meeting.
Excellent. So be thinking about it so that you know, we're not really coming up with all kinds of crazy things at the end. Not crazy, but you know what I mean. I'm looking at you.
I'm not saying a word.
Okay. And maybe I missed it and beeped out for a moment, but I didn't hear you announce the autonomous vehicle launch that we're going to have in downtown St. Pete, Cassandra. We're always interested in that, and we didn't talk about it today, did we? Well, could you please come let us know where we are and what we're doing and how it's going to assist and help with our moving people back and forth, because, you know, there's going to be a new ferry down there, and we want to make sure that people are able to get to it.
And I know.
Go ahead.
You certainly saw that, didn't you?
Yes.
Would my boss like to say anything first before I?
Speak up so we can.
Well, I noticed there was an article that when there was some discussion at the St. Pete City Council, I guess, or about the ferry starting on November 1st, and with limited parking or not immediate parking available for it, whether there was concern. And so, of course, I thought to myself, well, what about public transportation or a new, amazingly innovative public transportation alternative that will also start on November 1st, hopefully, an autonomous vehicle shuttle.
I dreamt about it last night, which is part of my tentative nature this morning. We are still planning to launch a service on November 1st to be operational between the Vinoy and the Dali as a demonstration project of autonomous vehicle technology in downtown St. Pete. It would be a 3-month trial period, November, December, and January, to launch concurrently with the Cross Bay Ferry. And also we've been working with other partners in downtown like the Vinoy and the Mahaffey to look at some facilities that we might need. We sent this project to the Florida Department of Transportation because we needed some additional funding for operations, and they've come through for us. You did approve that today. We were able to put that into the committee packet just at the last minute, where we got word that we had received $100,000 from the Florida Department of Transportation to supplement our contribution, as well as the contributions of the City of St. Petersburg and AECOM into this project.
That is so excellent, and I'm so proud of the relationship that we have with the State Department of Transportation and with our federal partners. And as we love to say on the county commission, with partnerships you can do more and get more done. And I do want you to know that we did have a very nice conversation yesterday, Brad. I offered your assistance with PSTA to the City of St. Petersburg to help with the parking. So carry on and go forth and, what? Okay, so I think that is it, unless we have something else. Anyone have anything else for the good of the order? And if not, then we are adjourned, and we'll see you on Monday at the MPO workshop. Thank you, everybody. Good job. See you on Friday. And I'll see you on Friday.
It's very costly.
Yeah, but there's no place to park. I mean, it's a mess.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, I am way ahead of schedule today. I told you. Very good, thank you.
I'd like to go to this.